So, what do I need to say? What is it I wanted to share with you? Well, I was speaking in a long-winded way to one of my members today about something, a trigger word that come up, the word entity and energy and trauma. And I thought actually this might be worth sharing because I've seen a pattern release come up in myself recently and had sort of dilemmas, and I'm seeing things come up not just for me but for other people in letting go. For those that identify with being healers, light workers, I want to talk about light and dark, the concept of light and dark and frequency and holding space, but not actually allowing that to become a trauma bond or link in an attachment way. We often think that as healers we draw like moths people to us to be healed, and that does happen at times, but in actual fact there comes a shift, a subtle shift, when we start to release the need to feed that, I want to say, transmutation for the light for people around us, be it entity, be it people, energy vampires, narcissists and empathists, that whole relationship. You can go into that psychological dynamic on one level of perspective of thinking, thought form wise, or thinking about it just purely in terms of your own boundaries, your own thought form patterns, stories that you tell. I had a relationship with someone that I cared about from my childhood, who I wanted to help, but I always found that my energy couldn't handle being near that person. It felt draining, and I was asking why, and I kept going back and wanting to be there because I felt sorry for the person and I felt it was really sad, but they would never listen to advice or help, and it would always be like, oh, when that person didn't want to talk about themselves, it meant that you weren't caring. They couldn't empathize with me, yet they were saying no one empathized with them, not really actually seeing the real picture because they're caught in pain, and actually really hurting. And empathically we want to help people as healers, but part of the boundary and stepping into your own power is understanding that actually you can only help those that help themselves, and sometimes that means demonstrating to them when enough is enough, and that doesn't have to be a horrible way. And naturally, I think energetically, for me personally, with the story I'm referring to, has kind of come to its own conclusion as that energy shift dynamic has had to move, because there couldn't even be a conversation with the person. It just nothing related. You might think, oh well, you just not that kind of person anymore, don't relate, and most people say, well, it doesn't mean they're bad people. You want to let go, but on an actual physical, real one-to-one with people, how it's like, oh, I'm just going to cut these people out of my life. It seems so horrid, and you don't want to do that when you're someone that actually generally cares about how people are. But there is a stepping point happening this November, and trauma is coming up to be cleared big time. Collectively, you can see it playing out. One of the images, it's one of the things I said to my members, I was seeing an image of almost like Black Death, a figure in death holding light. And it doesn't mean that these people, whether you see it as an entity, whether it's a physical vampire in your life that sucks energy, and just can't see through their own pain or past their own pain, that actually they're hurting, because as we know, hurt people. They don't mean to. They generally just do that because they're in that place. They react. It's the cause and effect. Or it's a pattern that you're dealing with in your own life coming up for you. It might be, I don't know, what's one of mine that I've been speaking of often, of clearing the sweet treats and the sugar, which of you actually watching a video with Aaron Doughty this week really kind of brought home the missing piece for me, was the guilt and letting go of the guilt and being addicted to the guilt. And I try to sort of express that actually that sometimes on a biological level, so taking it down from like all of those different perspectives, the entity, the vampires, the psychology, on the physical, that is a biological effect. You might be addicted to stress. You might be addicted because your emotions that react are physically chemicals in the brain. So it may play out as anxiety, it may play out as it's the guilt, whatever those emotions are. Although we don't want to feel them, or we say we don't want to feel that, our body gets used to feeling that at a certain time, and therefore that is I'm going to get interrupted, I think. That is the chemical reaction that we get addicted to, expectations, and we subconscious gives us what we need, or gives us what we want, not this as well. So lost my train of thought then in the distraction downstairs. Allowing yourself to see that, to understand that, and to help clear that this month. Wow, look at this when I'm like me going, oh look, what will they think of me? Am I enough? Am I good enough? Oh my god, if I look a mess, how will it come across? She says, she's just woken up. Look, oh my word, I need my hand for pulling that out. And just, letting go and caring. Actually, it doesn't matter what you think of me. It doesn't matter, because I know what I think of me, and that is stronger. And I think I saw a beautiful reel, I'll share it in my stories, of I can't remember who it was that shared it, but you need to be the sun, and the sun burns away. The vampires don't come near you. The moths aren't drawn to the flame of the sun, are they? They don't come out at that time. When you are the sun, you are a polarity for darkness. You don't relate, but you will still have your own darknesses, just like this shadowy figure holding light that I was seeing. Those darker characters will still have light. It's not all good, bad, completely cut and dry. You need to let go of judgment of all. And that's the sweet spot. That's the neutral spot of understanding, of clarity, of letting go that these people aren't bad people. And that there's part of us that will have that reactive state to things. You don't have to respond to everything with your boundaries. You don't even have to pay any mind, any feed, any intention, or any focus to it. You'll have your own tensions in your life that will be intention for you to see. You don't want to just snap them. You want to allow them to propel you forward in your evolution, in your growth, and shift your understanding of your perspective. So rather than thinking it's something you want to fight against, an evil entity that's sucking your energy, whether that is one perspective on one level, on one dimensional aspect of thought form, or the patterns of thought forms in your own story that we're retelling, that we're addicted to in our brain chemistry, whatever perspective you see it from that resonates with you, whatever hits home, allowing yourself space to process, allowing yourself space to go, don't need to deal with that. I don't need to answer that phone call right now. I'm here in this now moment doing this. When I'm in the right headspace, I can deal with that. Or when I've filled up my cup is the expression. But sometimes that's not quite clear as to where and why and how. And for me, as I was saying to my members, the practice of aligning with your 12D, what I call filter. Some people like to think of putting their shields up, their bubble. And there's a meditation over on my YouTube channel. Links are in the bio, both on Facebook and Instagram now. For my meditation Monday, it's the one that's light suit. But I want to speak to what this is for and your intention being in the right place, for it not about protection as such, because when you are the sun, you don't need protection. It's about being aligned and remembering you are the sun. So the state of putting the shield up isn't actually putting shields up. It's remembering you don't need the shields. It's that shift and subtlety and incrementation of our understanding of that and stepping into that power. And understanding when we're not in our power, that's when we visualize it as a filter as such, is what the way I do. Daily, I will put a filter up. So it's an awareness that I am processing stuff as it comes up, which it will, like a filter, like a purification system. That your alignment, your intention with the light from the highest is also rooted deep roots down in your own shadow and your own darkness, your own traumas and triggers, and an understanding of them. So you still hold the light even when you are in a low feeling of emotion or a shift, or you're processing something, because we have to do that to heal. Just think of a tree drawing up from the growth, and I speak to this season quite often. It's that letting go, but also letting go of what your expectation of yourself is, your expectation of others is, and others' expectations of you is part of your boundaries, and how you can align from a loving place, still in the firm, I send love to that and I let go of that, my attachment to that. I am not part of that. That is not about me. And energetically allow that to resolve itself. Because in the case of this person, bringing it back to that, to relate to your own maybe things that you've had coming up for you, be it entity, be it patterns, be it people, you cannot do that for it. It has to be done by yourself. I can't do it for you. I can share, and you might resonate with something I'm saying, and it might hit home. And the only reason that is because that is that part of you that is speaking to you, that some wording that I've said is in the flow of the concepts that are flowing to you from your own source, God, consciousness, divine connection, subconscious, whatever you want to call it. I think that's irrelevant now. I think that's their labels. They're labels of realities of understanding that we're all in different thing. We discern for ourselves, and they overlap a great deal. So this has come up for me, and I've realized actually there was a trauma bond with this particular person, because they'd been through a similar trauma to me as a child. And then I looked recently in my Healthy Habits Club. I'm a member of Alice's Healthy Habits Club, which I often speak of, highly recommend. It's more for my health, but we did a timeline, and I'd done a timeline also with my members as well, in about our splitting our timeline, stepping into our higher self in one of our monthly tasks we were doing, or fun works. And we'd allowed in that timeline, I started from my early years and realized actually by 11 years old, when I was making my statement to the police, I did that because I realized it was happening to someone else. And this person, the trauma link is what I'm referring to. It showed me that even back then, my trauma for me, I didn't see it as a gift as such, but I knew and I wanted and desired in some way that what had happened to me to benefit other people, to transmute that energy of the pain and those feelings I was dealing with, it to share. And that's at 11. So when I looked through this timeline and I was seeing all these, what challenges, what was doing, and by 16, I already processed that emotion, realised that there was triggers with sexuality because of abuse, and seen that, but chose to look and find tools like meditation, which for me was what I found then, to deal with that. So that was my early years. So I see that as a blessing now when I look back. What a wonderful gift and how far I've come. And sometimes it takes some of us a long time. And when I look at this one particular person, I realize that has almost psychologically been stuck back there because the trauma wasn't dealt with. And the emotions and the emotional intelligence is also stuck in that age. So to evolve, to mature spiritually and in our understanding, and evolve in our own process and our own path and life line, story, however you want to look at it, we need, not need the wrong word, it's possible to evolve quickly and sometimes it takes longer. But wherever you are on that path, it's okay. There's no judgment of that. But there was a realization that one path and another are different people, different what's the word? Different perspective and mind shifts, and seeing and choosing to see it as not. I chose to not be a victim even at 11. And in actual fact, that triggered things in the adults around me because I was told I was lying because of I seemed so mature to be dealing. The expectation was that I needed to be this or an act like this abused child. I understand that now, that this is because it was the starseed energy that was already activated. Sorry, I can feel the emotion coming up in connection to my star family now, or my guides, like they're wrapping me in love to go. Sorry. Tears of joy of feeling that love connection. That part of my soul path had chosen to learn and understand and grow quickly. Sorry, if I get this without crying. To learn and grow to get to where I am in this divine timing now. But other souls, maybe that's not their path. Maybe that's the polarity, that's that light is dimmed. But they still have it. So allowing yourself to be the sun, so you don't even need to be close, is setting your dominant vibration so it can go for miles. You don't need to be in the same room. You hold that intention, you release that intention. The sun just blooms. And I'm not saying that it's just me, it's all about me. It's all about you and how your perspective is of that. And when you step into that, when you stand in that, you allow that to resonate out, and that'll affect the relationships around you, that the experience around you. Because by intention, that tension evolves you, pulls you forward, propels you, rather than snaps and jolts. It does that when it needs to, and it's there to shift us and shake us, to wake us, to alert us to the frequency, the vibration that is there, that's happening, so that we shift to those different perspectives, clarities, understandings, and evolve in a spiritual term. So the other thing I wanted to add is when you set the intention, let it not be, I need the protection. And some people physically need that. They're in a space that others' energy in that area on a geographic or nature is hurting them, physically hurting them. But on an energetical sense, as I was saying, like, I'd chosen at 11 to walk a different path. I want to believe, and maybe some would say this is somewhat naive, that we choose that path for a reason, that maybe in different walks, different times, we were living different mirrors and images for that soul perspective to learn and understand from that, which from my past life perspective memories has shown me. I remember many of my deaths, and I know this not resonate with all of you, because that's the point of shifting, changing energy in from one conscious awareness or dimensional perspective, energetical field to another, if you like. But in this one, I most resonate with, and remember the ones that are most resonating with this, to remember those lessons. And it's not to judge others. So a reminder to remind you, to remind me, as we're all still growing, we're all still learning, and everyone's going to be a different space and a different perspective. It doesn't mean that they're out to get you. But to be in your boundary and to hold that sun energy. The sun is surrounded in the darkness of space. It's fine. And as I said, the image of this, the darkness, it's that holding and knowing that you can still hold your own darkness, your own triggers. And when I say darkness, I don't mean you can, I channel the devil, whatever. You may. That needs to be, but getting into the scary, more esoteric stuff in perspectives of this. But our light can still hold dark, and our dark can still hold light. And we need to let go of the fear of this without judgment, because 0 point, neutral point, it's not for, or it's neutral. It's the reset, it's the balance. Everything will hold extremes. So in conclusion, I guess, what am I trying to say here? I feel, certainly with myself and people that I've spoken to and with clients, reflecting back and the synchronicities of things that are happening around, that the traumas that are coming up, be they physical pain traumas for us to shift, or emotional traumas, or emotional traumas, links with people where we feel a sense of responsibility, could be linked to, I realise for me, linked to guilt of wanting to help, that as a need. When it's a need, it's something that's out of balance. It needs to just be natural and happen naturally, and that's the sweet spot for letting go, because then what happens is the healing, you allow the responsibility part, the heaviness to shift, and that lightness to connect you, and you're there. The gassy aspect of the sun and Solaris is, it allow things will go, it's not dense, it's lighter and feels as such, and more fluid, and able to be like a mist over everything. So you're not the shadow as such, but the light particles in the sky. and you're working with the light particles in your own. And I know I've gone a bit on a deeper level and a metaphorical level, but also I mean on a very physical level, in how your body reacts to things and how you move fluidly and or densely in your everyday moments, in your everyday interactions. So I'm going to leave it at this because I've got probably gone completely off tangent, but I felt it important to share as this had come up this morning, and for myself in the last day. And I thought, it's this fire, it's this energy. And actually my reaction to it is what I was observing within myself and felt the need to share, that it might help you to observe within you and remind you to observe within you, that I'm not reacting in the same way. I'm allowing myself to contract, but without contracting for the need for protection, knowing that actually I let go of judgment. I don't need to have that guilt anymore, because I know that in law of incrementation, everything in divine timing. So polarity, my words, whether heard with love or not, will one day, I hope, hit that light within that dark cloud of the mind or dark cloud of the emotion to the person that I was referring to, or where it needs to go within that dark area of the mental, the emotional, or the physical of those that I speak to with regards to this, with intention, because I know that that highest of the high intention for them is connected to their highest of their high intention. So I speak to that aspect because that aspect is the part that will reach them or not. But I think I kind of see it tipping more the other way,